Well, Dr. Davis Carter, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I'm very excited to talk about women and politics and advocacy. So, we're just going to jump right into it and have you start by sharing a little bit about how you got interested in the topic of women in politics.
Indeed, I would be remiss, and I think you can um, align with some of my lived experiences, that I'm a family of four little girls,
Mm,
okay, from Oxford, North Carolina. Both of my parents were educators,
mhm,
but very early on instilled this importance of voting.
mhm,
Not so much political engagement, but like it was this moral and social value that you must vote.
mhm,
So as you probably know, Michelle, being a woman of color
mhm,
from a southern town, we know that always people of color and women
mhm.
didn't immediately have the right to vote.
For sure.
It was earned, through civil rights. It was earned through the women's suffrage movement
Mhm,
to even be able today to go to the polls. And
mhm.
even now, in terms of legislation, it's legislation that has to be renewed
Yep,
every couple of years.
yep,
I'm scared, but I'm
yep.
faithful. Okay.
Yes, 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 yes.
And so, with that, with my mom and dad, both teachers, educators, whenever there was a local voting day or federal for the president, what have you, they would often, this was before they would give you off work or the schools were closed
Mm,
because they were
yep.
both educators.
Mhm,
So you had to like take leave to go
mhm.
vote, right? And
Yeah.
very oftentimes, mom and dad would take us when it was appropriate to even see Michelle, what it looks like to stand in line.
Yeah.
Depending on who's going against each other, it might be 2 minutes. You're in and out. But I can remember what, like with Obama and Bush, I mean, it was hours.
Yeah.
And so that really heightened my interest in like, so okay, so I'm because I was like, I said, oh, so my parents were voting, so things are gonna get better,
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
for everyone. So this is power in voting. Well, of course, I'm mature, and that's not the case. I go on to Winston-Salem State University, which
Mhm,
is a historically Black college in North Carolina.
mhm,
And when I tell you, I think I grew up as a young woman, as a leader, as I mean, just as everything, it was there in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
mhm.
Okay. And I was able immediately, I ran for like freshman class president, sophomore class president, won
Yes.
both, then successfully won two times as student government association president on that campus, which was never heard of.
Mhm.
And so when you sent in your questions, which were awesome, by the way,
Ah, thank
I
you.
thought about, and that's what I wrote in my notes, was that especially when we got to the SGA president level,
Mhm,
and like Bill Clinton, I mean, this was new, this
mhm,
new horizon of leadership coming in. Leaders like Mel Watts, those that were leaders of North Carolina were tapping into college talent
mm.
for a win.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
although I didn't understand the depth, it was like Mel Watts, his assistant wants to talk to me. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
And using our student union to not sway one party or the other,
Mhm.
or one issue or the another. If the thing was, Michelle back then was just get them registered to vote. And do you remember Rock the Vote?
Yeah, sure
It
do.
was kind
Sure
of,
do.
yes. So I even got involved with that with the campus, and even later on to go like to concerts anywhere where it was young college people
Mhm.
to say, hey, well, I don't like, it doesn't matter anyway. If I say so, it doesn't matter. I said, it's power. You need to do it. And
Yeah.
remembering being out in Raleigh, the Raleigh Durham area, and Winston-Salem, pushing not an agenda, but using this power to vote that
Mhm,
people have fought for.
mhm, mhm.
So at Winston-Salem State is where I kind of like the light bulb went off.
Yeah.
But shall I'll tell you, it was only when the hubby and I moved out here as homeowners in Accokeek, Maryland, where I can tell you I became an informed
Mm,
and educated voter.
yeah.
I used to, whoever mama vote for, oh, I'll vote for it. Whoever daddy vote for,
Yeah.
who y'all going with, Saras? And so then I'm like, okay, this process is very intense. I've got to delve a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And even in current elections, this past election, local and state, Michelle, I actually have a folder.
Mm,
I actually go to panels where I go, say, for example, you have been our mayor for 10 years.
mm-hmm.
Awesome, right? It means
Yeah.
you're doing something right.
Right.
But as we move forward with more complex issues, it may not mean you're the best candidate now.
Absolutely.
So I actually study, even if I vote for the underdog. And
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate being able to do that because I was introduced to this process. We had conversations at the table. I was in Girl Scouts, I was in 4-H,
Mm-hmm.
junior
Mm-hmm.
achievement,
Mm-hmm.
to even always, if it wasn't hard politics, it was your voice is essential.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's why.
Yeah. I love that. I love that that started with your parents taking you to the polls to see it. I know that's something that we have organically even just committed to in our household is that we go vote as a family. It's important that we're going and the girls see and understand, and we remind them they don't ask questions in the polling place.
And remove
Right.
the cell phones.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think that that's really cool that, you were exposed really early as well, because I think that, right, the questions are already there, and
Right.
being able to expose them is really important in my world. And so it sounds like we're headed in the right path, which is great to hear.
Right. Right. And it's like in, as some of your questions lead to later on, I think for women in particular, with some of our personal and domestic demands, you
Yeah.
go, gosh, this sounds great, but I got kids.
Yeah.
I got to get these tacos on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah, for
know,
sure.
or like here in the Maryland, DC area, your commute can be horrendous,
Mm.
whether you're driving or using the metro or what have you.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
you're in your mind. For me, I've been like, how do I genuinely
Hmm.
fixate myself in this important work?
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Without just wearing the little button, the little sticker, I voted.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I
Yep.
voted. For me, a person like me, Michelle, I'm like, okay, now what?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Well, and Joelle, you've already talked a little bit about you're a student of politics, right? You have a folder, you engage in the in-person events to learn more about things. I'm curious what your kind of lens is. Why is there still this significant gap in participation between men and women and our political system?
I just put this as well. Thank you for this exercise. Your questions were great, Michelle, again. Um, I think there's still a stigma, and I want you to stay with me on this one, between both men and women about a woman's place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to get on the pastor stand. I'm not going to go Southern Baptist on you. But I think there's some still very historic and sustaining ideologies of where women should be and what they should do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so let me just use this. Even with VP Harris,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and this,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to be honest and tell you, I certainly was not going to vote for one person, but I was not fully confident I was going to confident vote for her because I didn't fully understand her agenda,
Sure.
right? And
Sure.
I was like, I could clearly go and click her. She's a sister. She's running for this office, but I didn't clearly understand like the direction. Like I didn't
Yeah.
feel informed to punch
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
until I did some research and things of that nature. And so I really felt embarrassed about that
Mm.
because what my aunties would say that are 80 plus years old, again, women of color, were like, well, it doesn't matter what she's saying.
Mm.
She's been nominated, appointed, she's the first, and this and the third. You just go ahead and punch it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 10 years ago, I probably would have done that. But I'm like, I have voted for individuals based on different affinities that have not yielded what they said
Mm.
or what I thought about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, what I would do in that booth is, of course, my business. But I'm going to tell you, I go in with a very different mindset
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
about it. Just something to share with you. But let me tell you, if I did click the Harris button, let me tell you why, because I did my research. The Center for, what is it? It's called Kept the Women in Politics. Great website. Michelle, do you know they said even since like Saratoga, since the women's suffrage, like we've got 26 senators like active now or returning versus 54 from the 1930s. So we haven't even reached 100.
Yeah.
And at most in states, you get two senators.
Right.
So I have this for you and your listeners. 13 women serve as governors out of our 50. It is 50 states, right? It's not
Yes.
52.
Correct. Yes, that's absolutely right.
Okay. 26 out of 100 available seats are state senators. And Michelle, in the great state of Maryland, the little town, the crab eating country, the
Mm.
seafood of all places, probably
Yes.
besides Portland and Washington on the West Coast. Angela also Brooks is our senator from Maryland. And then the good Lisa Blunt, Rochester from Delaware. Now, you know that's significant. We
Mm-hmm.
won't even go there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
two, this is the first time. Even look in the House of Representatives, out of 435 seats, 125, 27% are women.
Mm.
96% of women in like 300 and plus seats, like in your local, like say for example, your what is it, your educational board council,
Mm-hmm.
your mayor, your commissioners,
Mm-hmm.
like titles like that, your judicial, like your judges and stuff, they still only make up like 31% of those roles.
Yeah.
And what's perplexing to me, Michelle, is that oftentimes, especially with those local elections,
Mm-hmm.
you grew up there.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, this is like your neighborhood.
Your people. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I found that interesting and I appreciated that information. But well, like you said, I love the question, like, why is there still a significant gap? And I think in terms of your next question is like some of the barriers, I think will speak to that gap. I think that there are some communities and states and demographics that get it,
Mm.
that women work, women raise children while working,
Yeah. Yeah.
women still cook while raising children and cooking and throw celebrations for family members.
Yeah.
And so, of course, they can run for office, but some go, oh, that's a bit much, you
Mm.
know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Not to get on my soapbox either. Although it's my podcast, so I guess I could get on my
You get to do
soapbox
what
if I
you
really
want.
wanted to, right? But I think that this past presidential election was clear that folks have a clear place for women
Yes, they
still.
do.
And that was made very, very evident as we saw things unfold. And I emotionally shared that in front of my children, right? This is the world
Yeah.
we're living in, girlfriends. And let's
Yes.
just be very clear about that. And
Yes.
let's do something about that, right?
And
So
let's do something about it.
yeah, yeah. Well, so as you alluded to, there's barriers, right? And as women, and I would imagine as a woman of color, we're no stranger to barriers for things that we want to do, that we need to do, that we should be doing. And so I'm curious, what are some of those barriers that you see in our political system that are prohibiting women from being more actively engaged in the politics?
That is a powerful question. So I hope the word is right. I'm going to use the more salient is, and Michelle, let me ask you this. How many times, because I think you know, or you at least, you're able to look at kind of how I've grew through student affairs and I'm
Yeah.
kind of taken kind of a place of reflection at this point. Um, but I can remember, like, even once getting my doctorate, being more credentialed at the table than most anybody sitting around there, and a title like an assistant vice president.
Yeah.
Say we're at a meeting and the question goes, well, who's going to take notes?
Mm-hmm. I am not the
And
note taker.
I'm going, I think it was in that role. But you know what, Michelle? I didn't say no. I just didn't look up.
Sure.
But I was like, are you serious?
Yeah.
And it was almost like my managing supervisor. This gentleman was like the associate VP at the time. Good guy, just totally thought he got it. But he really, I think, thought that I was going to say, well, I'll just do it. And that time I didn't.
Mm.
So, in terms of barriers, there's this Forbes article from last year, Michelle, 20 misconceptions of women, like in
Mm.
leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Forbes, they hire or they engage with what they call their experts to talk about what do you think are the misconceptions. One was women are meant to be caretakers of the team.
Mm.
So that's why even in the instance I just shared, okay, well, I'm not going to take it. You know, I'm a man. Joelle can take it. She's nice. She's jovial.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to do the potluck? Who's going to organize that?
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? An
Right.
automatic assumption versus someone like myself or you who say, oh, this sounds like an awesome idea. I will be there. What do you need me to order and have delivered? But no,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not organizing it.
Right.
And then you're considered a what?
Right. Starts with a B. Sure does.
Be a you know, and
Yeah,
sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it's a bad day.
for sure. For
Um,
sure.
Another thing quickly, Michelle, from that article was women are too emotional, aggressive, too quiet and submissive,
Mm.
restricted by domestic demands. Yeah. Women have skills that are less valuable. Women have values and priorities that are less focused on the team and are divided. Like, I got to get my kids. First of all, that has changed, and that's a lie. Even in a last role I was in, it was a very brilliant young man. Background was in mathematics. And I'll tell you one thing he used to always be solid about. And he, unfortunately, with his partner, they were not together, but they were very good at co parenting.
Mm-hmm.
So he has two little boys. And so if they would get sick, I'd be like, hey, I miss you today. What happened? He said, Dr. Carter, I'm sorry. He said, if my children are sick, I'm not having nobody else to come take care of them but me.
Mm. Yeah.
All right. And you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Versus like asking perhaps the mother or the young lady,
Yeah.
well, you know, I got stuff to do. You do this. He said, no, those are my children and I will
Yeah.
be there and I
Yeah.
have leave.
I
And I
love
thought it
that.
was very powerful. Oh, you'll love this one, especially with your background. Women can't lead through difficult situations.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a difficult situation, and they are many of them. What I feel like women are able to do, Michelle, is before reacting perhaps is the process
Mm-hmm.
and to come back, you
Mm-hmm.
know, instead of like boom, you know, just hitting that. I've learned the hard way
Mm-hmm.
responding to that email where you go, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
But to actually step back and process and go, okay, how will this not only impact me, but my team, my
Mm-hmm.
family, and everybody? Because as a woman,
Mm-hmm.
I can't, I'm not in the position now to jump off the handle.
Right.
So, how do I make my point and still be effective? So,
Right.
those are just a few that I pulled from that Forbes, Michelle, that I agree with. What do you think? Or do you think the list, it was 20 of them, and I'm going to send it to you, but
Yeah, well, and I've got this link here, so we'll make sure it's in the show notes so that folks
okay.
can go and take a look at the rest of those. But I think that's spot on. You know, I think that that is what we continue to see as I prepare for a number of different topics of the podcast. These are consistently the emotional piece, that they have competing priorities, right? Like all those sorts of things. And it reminds me of an episode that I did earlier on It's a Man's World, where really it's a man's world, but only if we let it be sometimes, right? Because we've got these skill sets to manage all the things if we need to manage all the things. We've got the skill sets to be strong communicators. And so, right, I think that sometimes it's a matter of we've got to present ourselves in a way that sets us up to be successful as
Right,
well, as
right.
well.
I think so. And that is that's a totally, a totally different framework. Would you agree, Michelle, based on how you were brought up?
Absolutely.
Okay. It is. It's a totally rethinking. For
Yep.
example, Lord, see, you got me so excited, my earrings falling off.
Oh,
But again, from an incredible household,
hmm,
Charles and Helen Davis loved each other. But I'm gonna share this and I'll tell them that I share it. But my mom, while my dad was a very much a constant, was always there. Do you know what I remember most, Michelle?
what's up?
With bills, with going to the grocery store, it was always mama
Mm,
physically
mm-hmm.
pulling out payment, whether it's cash or check. Now, I've later learned that it was their money, but in terms of the action,
Mm,
right,
mm-hmm.
of
Yep.
paying, it was her.
Yeah.
So as I dated, and even when I met Randall, my husband now, is just like, and I had to have a sorority sister tell me, like, being up here in the area, we'd be hanging out and all of this stuff. The bill would come. Let me see, Michelle. I probably was like 32 years old. She tapped me. She said, I need to go powder my nose. I said, oh Lord, what I do wrong this time? She said, Joelle, let him take it out of the wallet. She
Mm,
said, since y'all been married and we hang out, you always let my nephew do that.
mm,
And girl, and I said, okay, I didn't think about it. I said, that's just what I've seen.
for
And
sure.
so your point about the way, even something that may be as minute as that,
Mm-hmm.
that has to be transformed
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or reframed.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great example. Has my wheels spinning now. Has my wheels spinning a little bit here, you know? It's good stuff. That's good stuff. Well,
Yes.
Joelle, you have shared a ton of really incredible information, and so we're gonna kind of jump here a little
Okay.
bit to some tips, right? Like you've given lots of really good experiential pieces, lots of great data, which I am now a data person. I haven't always been a data person, but I am now a data person, which I
Yes, ma'am.
really appreciate. And so, what kind of tips would be helpful for women as they start to think about engaging in politics?
Yes, I have here stay informed and abreast of local, national, and state issues. And look, I know it can get boring, but I'm sorry. The way I see everybody just glued to their phones. One
Mm,
of the things I did, Michelle, I signed up like from the, the new senator that we have here from Maryland.
hmm,
I immediately signed up for her newsletter and
yeah.
her email alerts. Okay,
Hmm.
so that doesn't require me to physically go out anywhere, but that lets me know what's
Hmm.
happening in Congress,
Yeah.
her position,
Yeah.
how she voted, what she said. And she always does a nice piece of sharing how it impacts our local community.
Love that.
So start small.
Hmm.
If you're interested in that, just get the information. One
Yeah.
of the things I feel so blessed about is I'm now not just a voter, saying I voted. I'm educated and informed. And I'm gonna
Mm,
tell you, Michelle, some people, if it's not, I've written in people.
mm, hmm, hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm informed on the issues.
Yeah.
Get involved in your local and community levels to build confidence and take advantage of community resources and citizenship programs. Here in Laurel, it's a free program, Michelle, called the Laurel Citizens Academy.
Hmm.
And so it is like a 8-week program free with some good food, with a notebook this big that
Yeah.
basically talks to you about the governance of where you live.
Oh, love that.
And they only accept 20 people. It's powerful. You get to meet the mayor, the city council, it's everyone
Hmm.
just for an hour and a half. And I think a lot of people just they don't know that it exists. There are
Mm,
things that the police do just for citizens to come free, to learn
hmm.
about where you live And that will spike your taste, I think, to get more involved. Because you'll be like, okay, I didn't know about that dog park, but I know about this one, and y'all need to clean it up.
Yeah.
So now I
Yeah.
know. Oh,
Yes. Clean up after your
um,
dogs, friends.
yes, I love them. And look, little kitties too, child. Whatever your political affiliation, join a club.
Mm,
Despite the agenda, I know when Brenda and I first moved to the area, and I will say I am a Democrat for now,
mhm.
but we joined the Democratic club in our town when we bought our first house. And while I didn't agree with all of the issues and speakers, there were so many free events and opportunities to engage with the executive county director. It's like free stuff just to say, "Oh, this is who you are." You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
Check out organizations designed to empower women to get involved and become more engaged. And again, and I'll drop this to you, Michelle. It's a group called Emily's List. It's a political action group for women, addressing both domestic and international
Mm,
issues.
mm.
She should run.
Yeah.
It's a nonpartisan
Yeah.
organization. For those that are serious, this is how you fundraise. This is
Mhm.
how you get your team together and get out there, especially if you're going against a very strong sitting person.
Yeah.
And then like Emerge America, which is designed more for those pursuing democratic interests, but still again, those tools to get you in the race
Yeah.
and just volunteer.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you, when we first moved back to Maryland, Michelle, um, it was one of my fraternity brothers of Omega Psi Phi. You remember them, don't you?
I sure do.
But he was running for political office, and he just needed Randall and I to do corner waves. He
Mm.
had the signs, and we dedicated mornings on the weekends to go out and just wave. You'd be amazed at the people that would honk and stop.
Yeah.
We would go over to the Starbucks just to have a conversation about like who really is this guy,
Yeah.
and do you all need help?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Those are such great tips and they feel super tangible, right? Like non-threatening, easy to
Right.
do, just ways that you can easily engage and hopefully and just incorporate it into kind of what your political preparedness is already, right? Just adding a little extra in there goes sounds like it's going to
Right.
go a long way.
Right, absolutely. And again, you don't have to pay. And I may add, especially for our young girls like your daughter with the Troop Sisters,
Yes.
these are all resume builders.
Yeah.
So, say if, like you run for office, something local, and one of your daughters, somebody or a friend says, "Well, look, I can definitely handle the social media push because I'm on there anyway."
Yeah.
All of that is experience that's going to resonate with an employer. And if you decide to run, it's going to be like, I've been doing this. I've
Mhm.
been involved.
Yeah.
I'm not just trying to get hype right now. I'm serious about issues affecting my community, my state, and this country.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Such great tips. So
Right.
thank you for all of those. All of those were so good. Well, we're at the end, which is hard to believe. I can't
And
believe
I
we're
did good.
already there. You did great. What kind of final thoughts do you have for the listeners?
Just that I just would say, listeners, even on the worst day, if you feel like as a person, but especially as a woman, your voice doesn't matter,
Mm,
you're lying to yourself.
mm,
I want you to always know, and this is another organization I'm a part of, Michelle said, you better know without this rib, without, look, without all of this,
mhm,
imagine a world without women.
mm,
We would not be here.
mm-mm.
It doesn't even take a nuclear bomb. Without women on this earth and involved, we shall not be a democracy or successful. Just know that.
Love it.
Even kissing your child and saying you're going to make it a great day today
Mm,
is you exuding power.
mhm, mhm.
Indeed. And so that's what I would leave. And look, and always dress fly and get all the women's stuff,
Oh,
you
I
know.
love that.
Look,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
let's keep it fly.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so, so much, Dr. Davis Carter, for sharing all this
Yes,
information. I think this is so powerful, so important as we continue to think about, right? We're in the midst of who knows what we're in the midst of these days,
right,
you
right,
know? But how can we feel empowered to change if we're not feeling it, right? And
exactly.
so so I think this has been really helpful, really incredibly insightful. And so I know my listeners, I have some good nuggets of information to take away. So thank you so much for
Awesome,
joining.
awesome. You all have a good evening. Stay powerful. Look, I have on here, stay rosy. You remember Rosie with the muscle
Yes.
from the World War? Stay rosy. No matter
Yes.
how you look, put on your bandana and look and stay rosy. Okay?
Yep.
Because we are here and relevant.
I love it. I love it. Well, listeners, thank you also for tuning in again this week and for continuing to tune in and spread the good word and the message of this podcast. This week's affirmations: I'm done apologizing for spending time focused on me. I'm done apologizing for staying rosy, as Dr. Davis Carter just said. And this one's for you. I'm done apologizing for you fill in the blank. Friends, go out there, have an incredible week. Do the amazing things I know you're capable of. Remember to like, follow, and share wherever you're listening to this podcast, whatever platform you're on. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you get notification of the next great podcast episode to air, which of course is every Monday morning. If you are not already, make sure you're following over on social media. Friends, I am literally everywhere now. You can follow me on Instagram at done.apologizing. You can follow me on the Facebook groups at done.apologizing. I am over on Blue Sky at done dash apologizing. I'm on the TikTok at done.apologizing. I'm on the LinkedIn at I'm Done Apologizing Podcast. So you can find me everywhere. And I also am on YouTube. Hey, YouTube followers. So make sure you check out this video podcast over on YouTube as well at Done Apologizing. And if you want to be my guest, just like Dr. Davis Carter here and all my fabulous guests, make sure you fill out the form at the link in my show notes or on any of my social media platforms. I'd love to hear what you have to say and what you're passionate about and want to share with my listeners. And remember, you're fabulous. You're a badass. You've got this, and I'm here for you.